What's up, everyone? How's your day going? I actually just finished watching X-Men 97, Episode 10, Tolerance is Extinction Part 3, and the episode was amazing. So, I don't think I'll be going into too many details, but I do want to talk about some major points in the episode, so there will be spoilers. And spoilers for the ending, which was a great ending. So I might actually talk about the ending first. Well, I'm not going to reveal the ending until later, but I do want to say that unlike many other things, shows and movies that have come out over recently, where in this day and age we have a bunch of shared universes and sequels planned, or a trilogy is planned from before the first movie is even finished being written. Yes, there are more seasons planned, and you can clearly see from the ending that there are more seasons planned, but they still wrapped up this storyline with Bastion in episode 10. So there is a cliffhanger, but it's not like a cliffhanger for the storyline that we're going through right now. So the episode begins with, right after where the episode 9 ended, we have the X-Men have been captured by Bastion. But prior to that, we see Magneto and Charles Xavier in a bar. At first, I thought this was like them meeting in the past, but this was actually them inside of Magneto's mind. So it wasn't actually a flashback. Also, in the intro music, there were some things I didn't notice before. Emma Frost and the Hellfire Club in the beginning, as well as Professor X and Magneto seem to be fighting some soldiers or whatever in the intro. Maybe that was in the other episodes. I did skip the intro in some of the other episodes, so I may not have noticed that. Also, we had, so once the episode begins, after a few minutes of speaking, Magneto realizes that Professor Xavier is inside of his brain. And, they begin talking. Professor Xavier is trying to help Magneto get over the things that happened to him in his past, essentially. So on Asteroid M, we see that they are trying to take care of Wolverine, and Professor Xavier and Magneto are both unconscious because of what Professor Xavier did. Down on Earth, Bastion and Mr. Sinister have captured all of the mutants because Professor Xavier turned all the electricity back on. So once that happens, we see Cable is destroyed. There's no sign of Jean There's no sign of Jean Grey. But Cable, he's not making any. He's just like looking down at the sand crying. The rest of the X-Men have been captured by Sentinels, and Bastion is going on this speech about how he's the future and this and that, and how Professor Xavier had to make his future come true in order to try to make his own dreams come true. His dreams coming true is going to lead to Bastion's future. That's what Bastion is saying. And then he brings the Prime Sentinels to kill Cable. Mr. Sinister protests because Cable was supposed to be his prize, but Bastion wants to make an example out of him. That is when Jean Grey rises as the Phoenix. She puts back together the nullifying collar, and she is able to put it on Bastion. He loses control of the Sentinels. She drags him down into the ground with like a psychic slam. The rest of the X-Men are freed. Then the Phoenix goes away, and Jean Grey explains how the Phoenix was inside of her, even though the Phoenix was dead or whatever, you know. So, that, the issue is Bastion comes back, Jean Grey doesn't finish him off with her attack. And, he's super powerful, kind of like knocks Jean out for a little bit. And then we see we see Bastion rip off Cable's arm, and he uses it to transform into a more technological version of himself. And then he flies towards Asteroid M to drop it on the Earth. You know, the X-Men get into a fight with Bastion. There's a really good scene where Rogue knocks him off of Asteroid M, and she just keeps punching him into the moon. She's like beating him all over the place, and she does damage, but he reconstructs himself. Then Sunspot comes and he does a little bit of damage, but he's not really able to really harm Bastion. Then he goes back to the ship. He ends up fighting the rest of the X-Men, Cyclops, Jubilee, and they all put up a pretty good fight. At this time, that's when they realize that they can't beat Bastion, they can't fight the future, so they try to reason with him, and they say, like, he's just one of humanity's children, and they aren't causing the extinction of humanity. You know, humanity still lives, and they have children that are mutants. But, you know, the leaders of Earth, the president, decided to go ahead with the plan to blow up Asteroid M, or what was the Magneto Protocol, I think they were calling it. And this is after they've already almost stopped Bastion. This happens, the Asteroid M starts plummeting to the ground. They can't stop it. They're doing everything they can. Jean Grey, Rogue, and Storm are trying to push it back. Beast is using some type of technology. Well, he's trying to control the asteroid, but the asteroid is like running out of power and everything. And then that's where we see Bastion get like sucked into the gravity sphere that was controlling Asteroid M. Professor Xavier, who's in Magneto's mind, reminds him who he is. And as the asteroid is crashing down to Earth, you know, Jubilee and Sunspot actually are back on Earth because Jubilee got knocked out of Asteroid M, and Sunspot caught her and brought her back down to Earth. And, you know, so that's the reason they're on Earth already with Forge. So everybody thinks, you know, the X-Men aren't going to be able to stop it. But Professor Xavier is able to remind Magneto of who he was, who he is. And he comes back, he regains consciousness, and he saves the Earth. He pulls Asteroid M out of, you know, Earth's orbit. But then the entire asteroid disappears. So we see the episode cuts to 6 months later, where Forge has been looking for the X-Men. Bishop shows up, and Forge doesn't recognize him, but Bishop says he knows him already. This isn't the first time they've had to rescue the X-Men, even though Forge doesn't know because Bishop is a time traveler as well. And so he says the X-Men are in some place, they're in a different time. And that is when we see that Rogue, Nightcrawler, Professor Xavier, Magneto, and Beast are in ancient Egypt. There's an attack going on, and they stop the attackers, they save the village, and they save someone who, when they ask him who he is, he takes off his mask. You see the blue lines on his face. He says his name is N'Sabanor, which, as we know, is Apocalypse's name. So They look at each other concerned, and then we see that Jean Grey and Cyclops have been sent to the year 3060 something, I think, and they get surrounded by people with weapons, and the lady says, "Oh, she explains who she is. She's the leader of the group of people that surrounds them, and they tell him like, I'm Jean Grey. This is Scott Summers." And then someone comes out, a little boy comes out and says, "I don't sense a threat from them." And the woman calls him Nathan, and they realize that is Cable, their son, who they sent into the future. So Scott and Jean are in the future with Cable. Everyone else, Professor Xavier, Beast, and Rogue, Nightcrawler, and Magneto, they are in the year 3000 BC with Apocalypse. So they're in 3000 BC. Jean and Cyclops are in 3060 AD. So they're like 6,000 years apart. And in the present day, we see Apocalypse is in Genosha, and he's says, "Oh, so much death," as he picks up a playing card, which we know was Gambit's playing card, the Queen, that, he, in one episode, he was holding it like when he went to go see Rogue, as symbolism, she's his queen or whatever. And so this is foreshadowing that Apocalypse is going to raise Gambit back to life, and he's going to be the Horseman Death. So overall, episode was a 10 out of 10. Season, to me, was a 10 out of 10. So anyone who is a fan of X-Men definitely needs to watch the show. You definitely need to watch this season. It was like, made me feel like I was a kid again, reading one of those epic comic book runs, of the past. So I would definitely approve of the show. 10 out of 10, especially if you're a fan of Marvel Comics and comic book characters. There were other characters in this episode. You see Captain America, Iron Man, Omega Red, Daredevil, Cloak and Dagger, and they all get attacked by Prime Sentinels. Once they come back, the Prime Sentinels are attacking humans now too, but that doesn't last very long. So it was a great episode, and I should be talking about Godzilla -1 soon, because I just watched that yesterday, and maybe even Godzilla vs. Kong too. I'm a huge Godzilla fan, and I definitely want to talk about Godzilla -1. So you guys have a nice day, have a nice night, whatever time you're watching this, and I'll see you later.